Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Heresy Business with me, Ben Timberley from BlackBook Consulting. The Heresy Business is a new webcast show talking about all the dark sides of business, the stuff that people don't want you to hear. Today's show is all about SEO, and I'm really proud to welcome to the show the one and only Liam Quirk from Quirky Digital. Liam, how you doing, mate?
Brilliant, Ben. Yeah, amazing to be speaking on your first episode.
Thanks for coming, buddy. I really appreciate the show of confidence and the support. I'm hoping there's going to be lots of people in the future that will remember this as the defining episode about undoing the orthodoxy in business and uttering heresy. That lots of people go, "Ooh, we can't have that. We can't have that," because that's what this show is all about. And I know in our conversations leading up to this that you've got some absolute Bobby Dazzlers in terms of things to tell people that most people will look at and go, "Heresy." So, without further ado, Liam, tell me, what do you do, mate?
So, yeah, as you can probably imagine by what we're talking about, I run an SEO agency. I've run it for the past year now. Been working in the industry for the past 7 years. I've worked on budgets, with clients that have been only been able to spend £50 a month, and I've worked with budgets going up to £30,000 a month. Working, in all different industries.
Some good coverage you got there.
Lots of coverage, a lot of different experiences, lots of different conversations with clients, and
nice.
Worked with lots of different types of SEOs as well. So, I feel as if in 7 years' time I've got a lot and lots of experience.
Good man. So, in terms of SEO, for the uninitiated, what is it and what's it for?
SEO, simply, it's a process of, getting your website ranking at the top of the Google search results in order to attract clicks, which lead to sales, phone calls, form completions. So it's a set of, essentially it's a concept and guidelines that you follow to ensure that your website, is as visible as possible.
I'm with you. Good stuff. So a bit of a disclaimer. I've been doing SEO personally for years. I'm completely self-taught. So I am absolutely sure there are going to be things that you'll be able to teach me today that I look and go, really? Is that true? So I'm hoping to learn a few things as well today, because it's really good to have a proper pro on the show. So in terms of our conversations before we sort of came on the show together today, the angle, as you're aware, of the Heresy Business, where we're in the business of heresy, is to try and expose the orthodoxy that blinds people to the truth behind the various topics that we cover. And in this case, I don't know where to begin. I mean, SEO, search engine optimization, it's crazy. I have had so many clients recently turning around, and the situations they're presenting me with are absolute horror stories. They are being sold SEO packages where nothing is happening. It's not even a case of the SEO is ineffective. It's a case of the SEO is just not being done. And I'm looking at this and thinking, how are people getting away with this stuff? How is it that, an industry like SEO where, it is almost performance-related pay. You do the job, and you've got evidence to show that it's worked. You've got all the tracking in place. Yet, so many people are getting away with, selling these services in and producing nothing. What's going on, Liam? Why are people able to get away with this?
Well, it's strange. It's a very strange industry, as you know, and most people that. When people have conversations with me about, me wanting to help them with the SEO, I can tell within a couple of minutes they don't actually understand what it is. So if they don't understand what it is, and the guy or girl who's doing the SEO for them, they don't actually explain to them what the service actually involves. It's essentially a free for all. It's a case of they can do what they want with your money. The problem is that when people present SEO, they show you what the results look like and what you get from it. They don't actually show you what's involved. And for me, in some instances, maybe that's the best approach. But particularly when I'm working with my clients, I try to show them what I'm doing, because a lot of my clients, SEO is probably the most important part of their business. It's where the majority of their revenue comes from. So I like to get them involved as possible.
That's a really key point to me, because your clients actually understand it. So I'm getting the impression that the people you work with are the ones that have gone, we need to invest in this because we know how important it is to our business, because generating online leads and traffic is crucial. The clients I'm coming across consistently are people who, for whatever reason, haven't got to that point. They don't understand the importance. They know that it is important, but they don't understand how important, and they don't know how it works, and they don't know what's involved in it. And these are the ones that I find repeatedly are getting absolutely conned. And I guess what I'm asking is, why is it that SEO is so misunderstood?
Simply, to make it as simple as possible, the reason it's misunderstood is probably because, not everybody follows the rules. I mean, there are lots of different ways that you can do it. And, if you was to go through the first 10 places, the Google search results, 9 times out of 10, them businesses are all working off different strategies. So people are being fed information from lots and lots of different angles. And, I've spoken to business owners before, quite similar to the ones that you're speaking to. And, they don't even know where to start. So it's kind of, take my money, and get me the results. So they don't really care what you're doing. And when strategies start off on that foot, that, in my opinion, that's how they go wrong. And don't get me wrong, every time I work, every SEO campaign I've done, not all of them have, been incredibly successful, and I shout about them all the time.
Kudos for honesty.
The ones that have, the ones that haven't been successful have started off in the fact that the clients haven't been educated about it and the expectations haven't been dealt with beforehand.
Yeah. Interesting. So in terms of, setting up an SEO campaign, or at least setting up an SEO function, where do you start? What's if I was a completely sort of new person to the world of SEO, and I run a business selling shoes. Now, I've got a shoe shop, and I thought, I'll set up an e-commerce website, and I'll set that up so I can sell my shoes online as well. Awesome. Now, me being me, I go, I've heard this thing about SEO that I need to do on my website and sell more shoes. What do I do? What's the first step?
So typically, when if someone was to come to me asking for help, for me, it's all about understanding what their objectives are first. And it'd be the same if it was the client carrying out the work themselves. They won't understand why they're doing SEO. Some people might, as you said, some people might want to sell shoes. Some people might just want to get traffic. Some people might just want to get leads. So it's all about understanding why you're doing it and who the target audience is.
So if, for example, as a shoe shop owner, I turn around and go, help network, I need an SEO guy to help me get moving forwards. If I speak to somebody and they say, I can do your SEO for you, and they don't present me with some questions about, for example, who are you aiming at, what are the commercial objectives of your business? If they're not doing that, what are they doing with that client? Essentially,
it's a difficult one, but 9 times out of 10, the way I'd look at it is that, they're probably not getting an understanding of the actual business or what the objectives are. So that means they're just going to follow a process that they think businesses who offer that type of service, the offer, it's like, typically it's SEO companies that offer packages, and, you get this every month, you get this. There's no actual real thought behind the strategy.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Why?
Simply because every different industry is different. Every different client has their different objectives. So if everybody was trying to rank for, keyword A, people will just be, following the same type of process the whole time. Whereas different industries, different things work. There's different ways to build authority. Different pieces of content are going to rank. It's
right.
It's the key word of SEO, and I hate saying it, but it depends. Completely depends.
Yeah, I've said that one myself, so I know where you're coming from. In terms of, you mentioned keywords and key phrases. Now, one of the things that always astounds me is I've had people turn around to me and say, "Oh, my website's been SEO'd by this person, this company, this agency," and I say, "Okay, what are your top 10 key phrases?" And they sort of go, don't know. And I'm like, really? Why? Why do you not know? And then they turn around and say, "Oh, we don't have a key phrase list." Have you had clients come to you with this problem before?
Yeah, it happens all the time. People come to me and they say, the website's been SEO'd, as you say, and somebody's, it's a WordPress website, the web developer's done it for them and just install the Yoast SEO plugin and SEO'd it for them. And, sometimes you can gather just from looking at somebody's website that that's what's happened. And if that's what I see and I can't, dig too much into it, I'll then ask for a report. Have they provided you with a report?
Yeah.
And if they haven't provided you with a report, then, you probably get the sense that, they've probably been had off.
So in terms of, because we're sort of coming into a part of the conversation now where you're mentioning some red flags that people should look out for when they're trying to get hold of SEO expertise and support. What would you say the top 5 are? So things to look for, reasons to not use an SEO provider. What would you say they are?
Number one, they can't provide examples of work that they've done before. Happens all the time, and it's probably the same with every single industry. If somebody can't provide, a case study or testimonials that haven't been written by themselves, then that's a red flag in itself.
Yeah.
Second point, probably, it's probably after research that I carry out myself that I noticed this. And if somebody has had SEO done on their website before, and if you run it into some tools and there's no clear historic data there, so if somebody's had SEO done on the website for the past year and the tools don't reflect that, it kind of says to me that something could be going on in the background that's a little bit naughty.
Yeah. So I've had 3 clients that's happened to recently, where I've dug into their website and they've literally got nothing. And usually because for whatever reason their web developer has nuked the website from being found. And there's 2 of them where it was actually clicked as no index across the entire website, which was just one of those moments where you think, web developers, what are you playing at? But the third one was because the way they'd set it up, it just couldn't be indexed at all. And I was thinking, this is absolute insanity. It's completely crazy. So what are the following 3 of the top 5?
Another red flag for me. So if somebody offers you, if somebody offers you a package solution, sometimes that works. Don't get me wrong. Let's say in local industries, you probably can, if you just target in specific areas. If that's what you want to go after, that probably can work. But when you're talking about competitive industries or nationwide businesses, if people send you a price list, I would always be very wary about it, because that means that they give you a quote without doing any research on your industry, who your competitors are, and what work it's going to take in order to leapfrog them.
So would you say that in terms of one of the biggest red flags is that the SEO practitioner doesn't come up with a plan?
Pretty much, yeah. There's no, the way I plan my work is I give I do quite a lot of upfront work for my clients. Essentially, I create the backbone of a strategy and say, this is the roadmap that we're going down. I don't complete it. I don't complete all of it. Or say, this is where I'm going down. This is the work that we're going to carry out. Just to make sure that what I got from the clients actually matches their objectives from the campaign. So that's the way I would approach things. Yeah.
Okay. And another point. Anything else? Any other red flags that you can think of that people should really watch out for with SEO guys? Perhaps something that you as an SEO specialist would spot that other people wouldn't, including me.
Yeah. Okay. Pushy salesman. That's a big one. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody last night, and it was a very large company, nationwide company that everybody will have heard of. I'm not going to say the name, but they've probably got thousands of salesmen calling up, every business that they can find in a telephone book, and literally just calling people up, ripping their websites, telling them what they're going, essentially telling businesses what they're going to do for them without actually understanding anything about the business. And to me, I can't speak for everybody, but most good SEOs that I know don't have to pick up the phone and call people. Most of the time, the work speaks for themselves. And if you've got a pushy salesman, I would always be a little bit wary about that.
Okay, so you're saying something interesting here, and it brings me on to another point. Is there a shortage of good SEO practitioners? Is it easy to find somebody that can do SEO well, or are they, just sort of hiding under every rock like cockroaches? Because personally, I haven't found very many SEO people I would trust to do the work. What about you?
Yeah, so it's a common theme with I've worked at SEO agencies in the past. I've worked at web agencies in the past, and probably the most common pitfall is clients wanting to actually grow the work that they're doing with the agency, but the agency not being able to handle it, simply because it's hard to recruit people. Lots of SEO people like myself, we work for a couple of agencies. Once we get it, and we start to do our own thing then, and that's what I find, that there are lots of SEO agencies out there, and there are lots of SEO freelancers out there. And to me, it's kind of just going to go like that a little bit, and there's just going to be a lot more freelancers. In my opinion, in the UK, there's a massive shortage. I mean, I've grew my business in the past year, a lot further than I ever thought I ever would be able to. It may be due to the pandemic and everyone being at home, being online, but to be at a stage now where I'm turning down work, it probably suggests that there's a skills, a shortage. It might not be that there's a skills shortage, but it might just be the fact that, people probably can, people can tell if someone knows what they're talking about, and, if they don't.
See, that's one of the interesting things. There's a statistic that came out recently that has backed up what we've seen in terms of recruitment changes, where there is a huge influx into the marketing sector of people who are instructed to manage pay-per-click advertising, social paid advertising, and they're not relying on SEO and good content to bring business to websites. Instead, they're just shortcutting it and paying for advertising, which feels like a massive knee-jerk reaction and really short-sighted cluelessness from senior management teams. And guess what the number one falling job is in marketing teams? SEO. And I'm wondering whether it's because people just don't understand how SEO works and how important it is, or whether it's because they're knee-jerking because they don't recognize it as a tool they can use, and they think I will just pay for Facebook ads, or whether it's because they can't actually get hold of the people to do the work. What's your take?
I think it's probably the latter. I feel as if it's people can't actually, from my opinion, it will be that people can't actually find people to do the work that will tell them what they're doing. So there will be, you can go on any, you can go on Fiverr, you can go on People Per Hour. There are lots of different websites out there. It's so easy to hire somebody to do SEO, but it's very hard to find somebody who's willing to be open about it. And because SEO is, SEO's been going longer than I've been alive. There've been search engines, they go back 25. Search engines that go back 25 years. So it's not like it's a new thing, and it's always been popular. It's just, in my opinion, there are lots and lots of business owners out there, and it's typically your older business owners. They're the ones that, I've spoken to quite a few of them recently, and they worked with SEO agencies, maybe 10 years ago, and they had a bad experience. They've been burned by them, and they're always a little bit, wary about speaking to somebody to do it.
That's another cracking point you've just made there. So in terms of the reputation of SEO, do you think that is one of the things that steers people away from using it as a tool? Because there are so many charlatans out there and so many people have been burnt.
100%. You've basically hit the nail on the head. The reason why, a lot of my work comes, naturally comes from people seeing my results, people, coming from a website, from my SEO. Yeah. But whenever I speak to if I've been introduced to somebody through networking, there's always, if there's someone that's been in business for 20 years, they've always got a story about being ripped off, whether it's from, whether it's an SEO agency, whether, it's a web developer, it's SEO, the website, whatever that is, there's always a story. And that's probably why, SEO probably is seen as a bit of a dark art.
So again, another point, many of the viewers of this video will be familiar with the concept of white hat, grey hat, black hat. From your perception, what's the difference in SEO between white hat operators, black hat operators, and grey hat operators, and where do you sit?
Okay, so we'll start with white hat. White hat is essentially, you are following Google's guidelines. You're doing what they're telling you to do in order to get the rankings. I'm not even going to get started on white hat SEO. Black hat SEO is essentially doing whatever you can in order to get your website ranking. I know people who hack people's websites to place links on them.
That happens.
It happens. And it happens all the time.
That's crazy.
There are so many, different things you can do. There's probably hundreds of things I could talk about, but that's probably the most extreme. In some instances, people, some people will hack people's websites and change their phone numbers, that type of stuff.
There's an article online at the moment doing the rounds about that issue, where people are actually hacking people's websites and improving their SEO for them, because they've installed malware on their websites and they want it to propagate faster. So they're looking for websites that are ideal targets for this, that they can do the SEO for them. And I'm thinking, in what world does this happen, where people are criminally improving the SEO of their websites just so they can spread more malware? It's crazy. And it shows, I'll let you come on to the grey hat bit in the middle, because I know you've mentioned that's where you sit. But the idea of people's websites actually being hackable just for the purpose of improving their SEO to spread malware just blows my tiny mind. So in terms of grey hat, because these are the people that sort of mix the practices, tell me about them.
So grey hat, essentially, as you can imagine, that's right in the middle of white and black. And for me, it's doing stuff that isn't actually incriminating. It's doing, it's stuff that isn't incriminating, but Google tells you not to do it. So the perfect example of that is, link building. Regardless of what anybody tells you, Google says links aren't really that important. Google have brought out updates in the past, which basically, basically, they've penalised websites which have had, bad link profiles. So Google tell you not to build links, let them come naturally. Well, I've got a fact for everybody. If you're a small business, nobody's going to want to link to your website, unless you provide something for them. So Google tells you not to buy. Yeah.
So it's a transaction. You actually have to, give something to receive that link. Is that what you're saying?
9 times out of 10, yeah. Always. People say, you can do outreach, that type of thing. You're still giving them something. You're still giving them, content for the website. You still might be giving them social media promotion. So for me, if somebody's doing white hat SEO and they're getting really good results, 1 or 2 things, the industry's not even worth talking about. It might not be competitive whatsoever. Or number 2, they're a massive brand. And that's what I see all the time. There's, there are people that talk about how white hat they are, but they work with, massive businesses that people naturally talk about on the news anyway. And that there are lots of agencies out there that only work with, big companies because it makes it so much easier for them. Yeah. But then, you got the other side of the equation. I mean, as I said, I've worked with, really small businesses where we've had to do what we can with their budgets. And I've worked with, bigger businesses that, in the tens of thousands per month. And the common theme is, regardless of what their budget is, people don't actually want to link to them. You've got to give them something.
And so, I mean, you're venturing into territory now where I'm sort of, because I'm very aware we're running out of time on the show. One of the things I wanted to sort of get out of you today was if you could, that fictional shoe shop that we talked about that's launched their online website. Most clients that are in my network will be of that kind of size. Some will be larger and will possibly face the same issues. But in terms of who should buy SEO and when they should buy it and why they should buy it, what would you say to those kinds of clients who are just starting out on their SEO adventure? What advice would you give them?
I'd say definitely seek help from somebody who's experienced, but make sure that, any genuine SEO person will tell you if you've got a budget of, let's say someone's got a budget of £100 a month, any genuine SEO person will tell you, it's probably not worth, us doing any work together because more than likely you're not going to see any results from that type of budget. And, it's up to people whether, it's up to people if they want to tell people that or not, but that's what I think people should do. If that is your type of budget, and most of the time, if somebody's starting, business, that's what they think SEO is because they've seen, they see Google ads of people saying, get your website ranked for £99 per month.
Or the web developer offers them a bolt-on at £100 a month.
That's it. So that's what most people's conception is. When someone starts a business, that's what they expect it to be. So if that is your budget, for me, if somebody comes to me with that, I might, maybe do a little consultation with them. Let's say they have £100. I might, spend an hour with them and tell them, right, go off and learn this, try and do this yourself. If you've got an 18-year-old daughter who's doing her A-levels, get her to write the content for you. Follow these guidelines, buy this tool, and that's what I would always do. And I think any genuine person would do that. Yeah.
So in summary, what you're saying is educate yourself about SEO, learn the basics before you go anywhere near spending any money on it. And when you do spend some money on it, make sure it's with somebody who has a track record, knows what we're about, and can make it work. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Don't ever reach out to somebody who can't actually prove that they're good at what they're doing. And
okay. Good man.
Same with any
We're out of time, Liam. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your help with this, mate. You've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everybody. This has been the Heresy Business from Ben Timberley of BlackBook Consulting. Thank you very much indeed.